You're listening to Say It Anyway, the podcast for people who know they're meant for more and are done holding back. I'm Maggie Marcus, and here we talk courage, self-trust, and what it takes to lead yourself, even when it scares the hell out of you. I used to struggle with binge eating. There's a period of my time where I just would eat everything in sight. Like I would get into these like bubbles where I would just disappear and just eat the weirdest combinations of food. I would like and then sometimes I would pair that with like smoking weed, which made it even worse. I would smoke weed, binge my face off, and sit there and watch Netflix until like 1 a.m. in the morning. And I remember that period of my life, especially because I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. I was in high-ticket sales, and I was working from home, and it was just like really isolating. I was always by myself in my room. I'd wake up, I'd work all day, and then not feel good about myself because I was never doing a good enough job. I was never closing enough deals, making enough money, doing as good as the other guys on the team. And at the same time, I was also starting to like, I was in therapy, and so a lot of things were coming out. I was doing a lot of healing work, and it was really hard to cope with a lot of things that I was feeling, a lot of things that were coming up for me. And so food was my way that was my comfort. I would escape, after a long day. I remember I would just toss myself onto my bed. I'd cry. I'd feel like shit. And the first thing I'd want to do is smoke weed. And then I used to live by Vaughn's, and I would like run to Vaughn's and pick up ice cream and snacks. And I would literally, I'm like serious. I would literally like run back. Like I'm so excited to just sit on the couch, watch TV and eat and just leave it all behind. And then I would get up off the couch and I would feel like shit. It'd be like super dark now by that point. I would drag myself to the bathroom. Sometimes I would want to just purge myself because I just felt like I had twins in my stomach. And I'd go to sleep, wake up, and feel like so disappointed with myself. And then the cycle would repeat. I'd beat myself up. I'd say, I gotta stop this. What's wrong with you? And I was never actually like healing the root issue, which was that I was not happy with myself. Wasn't feeling good about myself, and never felt like I was enough. Also, simultaneously feeling a lot of emotional abandonment that I had suppressed from when I was young. I do remember one time I was sitting there on the couch, and I had been living with a roommate at the time. I remember I was sitting there. I didn't expect her to be home, and I heard the gate downstairs open. I panicked. I realized she was coming up the stairs. I had a jar of peanut butter. I had jam. I had Triscuits, crumbs. Everything was scattered over the table in the living room. I immediately jump up. I grab everything. I like swipe all the crumbs off the table. I push everything into the cabinets, into the fridge as fast as I can, and I run down the hall to my room. And I remember turning on the light and looking at myself and like really seeing myself. I looked myself in the eyes in the mirror, and I just had glassy, bloodshot eyes. I looked so defeated. And then I saw it. A strand of peanut butter just dangling from my hair. I thought, is this really me? Like, is this me? Is this the woman is this who I really am? And I knew that something needed to change. But I knew that, actually I didn't know until later, that me beating myself up and shaming myself into changing wasn't actually going to be the thing that changed me. See, the shame was already not working for me. The shame was the reason was part of the reason I was in that position, is because I felt so bad about myself, and I felt like I should be doing better. I should be growing faster. I should be at higher income months. I should be having better, like more praise for my work. And because I wasn't, and I wasn't good enough in my own eyes, that led me to these unhealthy coping mechanisms, because I just wanted to escape myself. I wanted to get away. I wanted to numb out and not deal with all this pressure that I was putting on myself. Shame tells us you are bad, you are wrong, you are not enough. And it activates our threat responses, right? Our nervous system just like goes into survival mode. It panics because it's like, I don't want to feel this. Like I can't handle this. And so immediately we're looking for a way to relieve it. Because when we're in that space, we literally cannot access our resources, our internal resources, to allow us to come from a place of, say, curiosity or calmness, right? We're just in panic mode almost. If you've ever had like those urges where you have your own unhealthy coping mechanisms and something is rising up within you, stress, anxiety, discomfort, any sense of embarrassment or disappointment, and you know, like there's that thing, it's like, I just want to, it's like almost instant, like I need to relieve this. And you reach for the vape, you reach for the pipe, you reach for the cheese and crackers, you reach for the porn, whatever it is, to give yourself that release, that instant release. Whatever is going to numb us, or scrolling, right? Or Netflix, just whatever we can do to avoid. And then what happens? We feel worse, right? We feel worse, and the cycle repeats itself. Like me, right? Bad day at work. I'm terrible at this. Negative thoughts, feeling like shit. I'm never going to be good at this. Why am I doing this? Like, what's the point? Everyone's better at this than I am. I'm so behind, in my life. Everybody comparing to everyone else. And then immediately want to go and relieve that. I go and smoke and eat everything in the kitchen, and then go to bed, wake up, feel worse, repeat the pattern. So what do we need to come with instead? Compassion, compassion, compassion. And compassion doesn't mean you let yourself off the hook. It means creating a safe space for yourself to be able to look at yourself honestly. I think the most courageous thing that we can learn to do in ourselves is turn inward and really face ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Being able to create that space isn't always easy because the impulse is so strong. You recognize this thing that you don't want to feel and you instantly want to relieve it. And so being in the practice of like pausing and putting space is going to be so crucial, because that's where we can start to create an open space to come with compassion. There's research from Dr. Kristen Neff, and she talks about how shame activates the threat system, whereas compassion activates the care system. Right? The care system actually calms your nervous system. It opens you up to actually being able to change, to make different decisions, to create opportunities for new choices. Because what's happening is you're so wired with your coping mechanism, the one that maybe you don't want to have, but that's why it's just ingrained in you. So immediately we reach for that thing. But what we need to understand is that we cannot shame ourselves into becoming someone better. It doesn't work that way. Shame only repeats the cycle. Someone can have the same bad day at work, and this has been me, right? I've had the same bad days at work and thought to myself, okay, yeah. Like I put pause in between the feeling, the thoughts, and the immediate action and desire to to relieve myself and instead say, like, be my own best friend, like, have my own back. Like, how would you talk to your own best friend in this situation? Because to me, it was like, okay, I'm struggling and that's okay. Like, what do I actually need right now? Because reaching to, for the pipe or the bong and then reaching for the ice cream and the chips, like, I know where that leads, and it never actually gets me where I want to go, and I never actually feel better. In fact, I feel worse. So what do I actually need in this moment? Learning, how do I be there for myself? That's where we can start to make change. So what does it actually look like to choose compassion in the moment? I know this isn't always easy. I know from experience, I have been there. And there's going to be times where you are going to know what's better, not like logically, and still do the thing, still reach for the unhealthy coping mechanism. And so it's going to take a little like progress, and then you might come back and then you're going to try again. And that's okay. Just know that this, like for me, it took years of this practice until I finally was able to really hold space for myself and shift my relationship with my thoughts and my feelings and my coping mechanisms. So have some grace with yourself, but choosing compassion in the moment means, like I said earlier, putting space. This is so important. Putting space between the emotion and the impulse. You can even tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna give myself a minute. Well, I'm just gonna give myself a minute before I do the thing, before I reach for the thing. And even if after that minute you still do it, that's okay, right? This is the practice, right? How long can you sit with the discomfort? How long can you be there for yourself? Emotions, they have a natural lifespan. They will run their course if you let them. But if you keep spiraling the thoughts, spiraling the negativity, you keep restarting that emotional cycle for yourself. So what we want to do is practice putting space right between that impulse and how you're feeling and what you're thinking. And I want you to start asking yourself, I want you to get curious. Okay, you're going to ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Just start to identify what is the emotion and where are you feeling it in your body. Start to draw awareness to the sensations in your body physically. And then what you're going to want to practice doing is validating yourself. Okay, of course you feel this way. It was a hard day. It makes sense. You're still new to sales. Like, of course it's going to be challenging. Of course you're not going to be at the top of the leaderboard. Of course you're not going to be the best yet. Or you just started posting content. Yes, it's going to feel cringy at first. It makes sense. It makes sense. Or you haven't really been in a committed relationship before. It feels a little scary to enter into one. That totally makes sense. So you want to be able to validate to yourself, say, hey, you're human. It's okay that you feel that way. And in fact, it's not only okay, it makes sense. It makes sense. And so learn to validate and then ask yourself, what do I actually need right now? This one's really important. Not what do I want to escape with? Not that. But what do I actually need? What do I really need? Maybe I need some connection. I need to call someone that I love and have a heartfelt conversation. Maybe I just need a laugh. Maybe I need to watch something funny. Maybe I need some self-care. Maybe I need a bath. Maybe I need to scream into some pillows. I need to move the energy. Maybe I need to go for a walk and get some air. Maybe I need to actually feed myself a nourishing meal, something that feels good for my body. Like, what do I actually truly need in this moment? Maybe it's a cry. Maybe it's punching some pillows. I've had many times where I would just scream bloody murder into my pillows in the living room or go for a drive and scream in my car. I remember I'd hit the passenger's chair, the seat, as I was driving, just moving my energy. I remember one time I left my apartment because I couldn't, there was so much energy rising in me. There's so much discomfort and anxiety. And I booked it in the middle of the night. I ran down my alleyway, through the neighborhoods to the beach, and landed at the ocean. And I remember even screaming on the way there, just like, ah! And you know what's so funny is whenever I've released in those ways and moved that energy through me, most of the time I feel like I burst sometimes with laughter. It's just funny to me, like how much I've moved, and I have become like elated almost. Like I seem like a crazy person because I'm like screaming, crying, and then suddenly I'm laughing. It's because I'm moving all this energy through me in a way that, is healthier to me. I mean, sometimes people talk about you need to regulate, and people think regulate means like you regulate your nervous system means you've always got to be calm and meditate and sit. No, sometimes regulating means freaking running around like a crazy person, screaming and punching some shit or crying hysterically. Like sometimes it's regulating means giving yourself a healthy release of what you need, like whatever you need to meet yourself in that moment. What I love to call this is being your own inner ally. Like this is why I say treat yourself like you would a best friend. Like be your own best friend in those moments. How, if your best friend came to you in the same situation with the same thoughts and feelings, like what would you say to her? And then turn around and say that to yourself. Like, are you going to tell your friend that she's a failure because she had one bad sales day? Probably not. So why can't you do that for yourself? Why are we so much harder on ourselves? So something to take away and to keep in mind is something that I've used over the years, which is the 3 C's. And I've touched on this a little bit, but I just want to give you a framework here because I've always come back to the three C's. One is curiosity. This is about where we put the space between the impulse and the action and the behavior, right? If you can get curious, turn inward, what is coming up instead of running from it, get interested instead of getting scared from it. And remember, you can handle a feeling. You can handle a feeling, okay? And then the second thing, compassion, all right? The second C, compassion. Meet it with kindness instead of judgment. We're so quick to judge ourselves and to shame ourselves. Bring compassion the same way that you would for a best friend. And now the third C, clarity. From that place where you've put the pause, where you've come with compassion, where you've said, hey, makes sense you're feeling this way, totally get it. It's been a hard day. You've been going through some hard stuff. You're new to this, yada, yada, whatever. Now we come with clarity, right? What do I actually need? What do I truly need right now? And this is where aligned action comes from, okay? Not from force or from willpower, but from understanding. See, the more we can understand ourselves and offer ourselves compassion, now we can make better decisions that are more aligned with who we want to be and how we want to show up, right? So, for example, I want to give you an example. Today, I'm sick, man. I am running like low on energy. This morning, I woke up and I was like, oh. And I wanted to do nothing. I mean, truthfully, I wanted to not do any of my to-do list. And And this is where a lot of people would say, well, successful people push through. Don't successful people just like, don't let that slow you down, right? And I want to say that this is an important nuance, because compassion doesn't mean complacency, right? There's the distinction is the intention. So compassion says, I see what I have to do today, and I am going to give to that fully, from whatever fully is for me today. Okay. And complacency says, I don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do anything. There's a lot of elite athletes and performance coaches who talk about this, that your 100% on your sick day is different than your 100% on your best day. And that is still your 100% today. Can I show up at 100% of what my capacity is today, being sick, being run down? Can I still show up? Can I bring compassion? Because shame would say to me, well, push. You got to do it. You said, you know, if you're not going to be successful, the most successful people wouldn't sit on the couch and they wouldn't rest. They would hustle. They would push. Like, that's shame. Shame is going to push me and say, you're not good enough unless you're doing X, Y, and Z and grinding and hustling. No matter how you feel, you're not going to let your emotions get in the way. And sure, yeah, emotions don't always get to run the show, but can we come with compassion and acknowledge that and still move with loving action? James Clear, he also talks about this. Showing up even at your reduced capacity matters more than the output. Okay, like a smaller version of the habit on a hard day keeps the identity intact, and it can help keep the momentum going. Like, you are still someone who shows up. Like, I am in the middle of a 90-day show up challenge on social media. Like, I bet this guy $2,000 that I would show up every single day and post a video. You bet your ass that I'm sick and I'm still going to show up. But I did it lovingly. I honored when I woke up. I said, hey, I'm sick. I took a bunch of meds. I gargled with salt water. I sat for a little bit on the couch and I gave myself some grace. And then even when I showed up to film, it wasn't my 100%. And that's okay. I felt very vulnerable and I was not polished. And partially that was the point of the video, was, showing up regardless. But shame would have said, don't post that. It's not worth it. Nobody cares, right? But with compassion, I could show up and say, hey, I know I'm still new to this challenge. I'm still like 7 days in, and it makes sense that I'm going to feel a little cringy and unsure of how my content's landing, and that's okay. And so showing up is enough. This is good enough, And same thing with the podcast. I didn't, I was like, man, it'd be so easy just to not post or not film today. Like, I could film a different day and I can, whatever, right? But compassion said, hey, like, I can do this, and I can do it even if it's not 100%. I'm still going to show up the best that I can. Now, if I was really like throwing up and totally out of sorts, I wouldn't. But I asked myself, because it was an easy out, right? To say, I'm sick, I've got a sore throat, I'm not feeling good, I've got a headache. Why don't I just sit here and watch Runaway Bride and just not do it? And I did watch Runaway Bride for about 30 minutes while I ate some food. And I thought, you know what? I think I can do this. And so even if it's not 100% of my normal energy, I'm showing up. And to me in this moment, I'm so proud of myself doing this, showing up anyways. And showing up with like a compassion, love, not a shameful, forceful will. Like, you have to do this. You have to stay consistent. It's like, hey, like, damn, I'm still showing up at, my 100% today. The Brené Brown, she says the difference between compassion and excuses is intention, right? Are you honoring what you have, or are you avoiding what's hard? And I think it would have been really easy for me to use my sickness as an excuse to avoid, because it felt a little harder today to film. But the person who shows up at 60%, right, of their normal 100, right, even though it's the 100 for that day, like, that person will always outlast the person who burns out while trying to maintain the same 100% every single day through their shame. So I'm using 100% of what's available today. And I realize that taking care of myself and showing up don't have to be opposites. See, the thing is, you are never, like, hear me when I say this, you will never shame yourself into becoming the person that you want to become. But at the risk of sounding cliche, you might just love yourself there. When you come with love, when you come from understanding for who you are and why you are the way you are, your patterns, your triggers, when you really truly come to understand yourself and can offer yourself compassion and love, that's where we move. When we move from that place, I think that we're going to be a lot more successful than the people who are constantly pushing and grinding away from a place of self-beat up and shame and hustle and grind mentality that no matter what, I've got to do it or I'm not good enough. So I hope you take from this today the 3 C's: curiosity, compassion, clarity, and offer yourself that and know that on those hard days, you can still move forward with compassion and with love for yourself. You don't have to hurt yourself into winning. Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, spread the love. Maybe share it with a friend or drop a comment. I'd love to know what landed for you. And remember, your voice matters. Whatever you're holding back, say it anyway.